Hello, welcome to Undisputed Boxing. It's boxing news. There is a lot to get through. We could have broken this up into two videos, to be fair, but we'll try and cram it into one. If you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe, share the support, drop any comments, anything you like. I'm here with Rick to talk news. I guess there's only one place to start, and that is the news that's broken about Matchroom splitting with Sky after their July the 1st, I believe, and they're going to go exclusive with Dazn for the next 5 years on an eye-watering 9-figure sum. I think a lot were kind of predicting this now, and I think a lot people are sort of saying the future is, the streaming apps, Dazn and Triller, and that obviously they're starting to make some really good headway in the US market now, with some of the cards that they're putting on, really kind of disrupting the market. So I guess it was, it was only going to go one way. But yeah, what was your take on this news when it broke? I think it was like midweek, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. Nothing's official. Yeah, I think it's something we need to. This is Coppinger, and he doesn't always get everything right. And Hearn's even come out to say everything's right. But I imagine most of it is. And let's go on the basis that the main news that they're leaving Sky is true. Then yeah, it's not a surprise. What I found more interesting was Hearn's interview when he said, whoever we join, we've got a bigger plan than just going to a platform. We want to be the production team, so it'll be Matchroom Media that do it. So whoever it is, whether it's Sky or Dazn, I think that the only thing they're going to be involved in is maybe a logo or two, rather than, the show will be created by Matchroom and they're just air it.
Yeah.
And I think that in a weird way is almost bigger news, because that's never been done before, as far as I'm aware. And it's full production rights to Matchroom. And I suppose if they're a sought after commodity, they can call these kind of shots. Well, it looks like they are. And I mean, the 9-figure sum's interesting because it's either 100 million or 999 million. There's a big difference. I think the article said like high numbers. So let's say it's 750 million. That's, I can't remember what the US deal is. I have no idea what the UK deal is, but it's nowhere near that. Yeah. So I imagine he's getting like 5 times more than what he was getting. And then I hope we see the benefits come through on the shows. I'd like to see maybe less shows, but better quality. Like this pay-per-view card on the weekend, could that be something that's just a very, very good card? And that's the normal Saturday night card. There's less of them, but then there's the bigger stuff is pay-per-view or whatever. But I don't know, that's what I hope we see of the back of this.
Yeah.
So did you make the rights?
Yeah, I sort of picked up on the same stuff that you picked up on, that Eddie Hearn and Matchroom wants to take a better control over the actual production of the show. And I couldn't work out if that was almost kind of like a sly dig at Sky, and whether he's not been that happy with the production, like how it comes across on TV, and maybe he wants to do something to try and, I don't know, just give it a bit of a refresh. Because I mean, how long has this agreement with Sky been going on for? Is maybe 7 or 8 years. So it's almost like maybe shaking things up a little bit, changing a few things. It's probably about time, isn't it? I don't necessarily think that they've been doing a bad job, but sometimes just change of tactics, different setup, bring in some new presenters and just shake things up a little bit, give it a bit of a new look and feel. It was maybe becoming a little bit tired. Bring it, there's a lot of boxers that have just recently retired. See if we can bring in some of that. When Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher came in, and Andy Gray and Richard Keek, like, they got booted off, and a lot of people were in uproar saying, no, we want the original kind of lineup But then now, like, you wouldn't swap, you know, Monday Night Football with Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher. It's great, isn't it? So it's almost like they need to find that kind of formula in boxing, I think.
Yeah. And that's why it makes more sense. I can't see Sky giving up productions. I mean, you're basically saying, Adam Smith, you haven't got a job.
Yeah, well, unless they employ him.
Yeah, but then it's like, will it just feel like Sky if they want to change? Don't know. So it'll be interesting how it pans out. And I just prefer that, you know, I mean, they've got to announce it soon, because I think you know, I think fight is middle of June, so we should know, you know, soon. But I imagine, you know, I think the first, we'll still have Sky until the you know, if you know, we'll get onto it, the AJ Fury fight. That's looking like it's going to be Sky. So
yeah,
they may still pop up, and there was talk of, you know, it is and this is where the information might not be truly correct. You know, AJ and AJ and White will stay on Sky. You know what I mean? So
I don't think they will. Do you think they will? Do you think they'll stay on Sky?
Well, that's what Coppinger's saying. So if we're going off the article is fully true, then they are doing, but it'll just be pay-per-views. So then Sky are going to need to look elsewhere. And do they go back to their old strategy of multiple promoters, or do they, you know, which they had before Hearn, or do they go back to you know, just one standalone promoter? And will this give an opportunity for Warren to get onto Sky?
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of see it a little bit differently. I think that AJ and maybe even Dillian White will actually sign their own agreement with Dazn, and it'll be like a mega multi-fight deal, maybe like a 5, 6, or maybe even an 8-fight deal, similar to what they did with Canelo. I think they'll do that with AJ and they'll do that with Dillian White. And I think Sky will probably go down the route of using like maybe the Sauerland brothers, Al Siesta, Steve Goodwin, you know, some of the kind of promoters that have maybe won down from Frank Warren. Frank Warren's tied up with BT long term. I don't think there's, and I just think that Sky will probably just put on like one big show a month, or maybe a big show every couple of months or something like that. I just don't think they'll invest the same amount of money in, if they don't have AJ or any of the cash cows. But I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I mean, look at, you know, there's a lot of, you know, good fighters out there that they're just not getting the airtime. I mean, look at Josh Taylor. I mean, we'll talk, you know, this is something I wanted to bring up a little bit later in the news video, but Josh Taylor is in an undisputed title fight with Jose Ramirez for light welterweight, you know, supremacy, and he hasn't got a TV deal yet in the UK anyway.
Yeah, no, I think it is. I think it is good. You'll have boxing. I mean, boxing's, there's more and more shows on all the time. I mean, I've never known it so much boxing on. You know, most weekends there's on, and I think it'll just get even with this. Just the one thing with Dillian White, I'm not sure Dazn know really how big Dillian White is for them yet. So I'm struggling to see they'd offer him a big deal. I think, you know, Joshua's fought on for them for a while. So I don't know. I think they'll have a bigger gauge, and I think that, you know, Joshua will mean more to them. So I'm not saying it won't happen. I think there's more likelihood of Joshua signing a big deal with Dazn. But I just wonder if Dillian White, you know, will they offer him something quite like that? And actually, will Sky offer him a lot to keep him, so they've got some marquee fighter? And actually, he then becomes Sky's #1 fighter.
He could be. That's definitely a play. But I mean, Dillian White's been on pay-per-view now for the last, what, 3 or 4 fights, and you know, done decent numbers. So they'll just look at that and think, you know, he'll get us sign-ups. And I think Dazn pockets are a lot deeper than Sky's, frankly. And boxing for Sky it will always be second fiddle to the football. So
yeah, if Dazn start, we want to be the boxing channel.
Yeah.
Then, yeah, I mean, they've got Canelo and AJ, haven't they? So yeah, it's then fitting. Should we move on to other news? Because we could get stuck on that topic all day, couldn't we?
I know, yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, I've touched on it already, but Josh Taylor against Jose Ramirez, no TV deal, fight is on 22nd of May. I think it's a bit strange why BT aren't really picking this up. I mean, if this was on Sky, I mean, they'd already be running the promos and head-to-head. The gloves are off, you know, they'll be doing all of that kind of stuff. And it's just, it's so strange because, you know, for me, Josh Taylor's the pound for pound #1 in Britain right now. You could argue it's either him or Tyson Fury, but at the moment, I'd say, you know, Josh Taylor is unified. Yeah, I just think it's really, really strange.
I mean, how many British fighters fight for undisputed in the division?
Yeah,
which is exactly what I'm about to do. So I think that's the strange thing. I mean, you've got to look at it, and you've got to blame Taylor to some degree, because it's like, you know, how has he let this happen? It's through his choices through promotional companies that's got like this, because he's only not on TV because of promotion.
Yeah.
And therefore he's got to look at himself, because and his management team, he chooses who promotes him. I firmly believe if he'd gone through Sky and Hearn, he, you know, career through them, this would be a mega fight. This would be on pay-per-view, you know, because he would have been built.
And as well, he's done everything that's been asked of him. You know, he fought at domestic level. He wasn't dismissive of, you know, the local talent or domestic fights. You know, he took on O'Hara Davis, which a lot of people thought that was a 50-50 fight at that time. And he made him quit, just ran through him, you know, comprehensively beat O'Hara Davis. And everybody was raving about O'Hara Davis. And Taylor just put him on his arse. And it was, you know, he didn't want to know. But what Regis Prograis in the tournament, the Sauerlands tournament, boxing tournament, and Prograis actually, I believe, was a slight favourite in that. Prograis was a monster at light welterweight, and Josh Taylor beat him.
I went to that. I was at that fight. Yeah, but why did everyone think O'Hara Davis was going to win? Because of his promotional.
Yeah,
his promotional. You know what I mean? So you know. What's his promotional history? Where did he? He's never been with Hearn, but he did get a chance. He picked elsewhere. Did he go to Top Rank?
Yeah, he went with Top Rank and Frank Warren. He was with the McGuigans. So the McGuigans promoted him, and I think he was on Channel 5. I remember watching him fight against Nick Blackwell. Was it Nick Blackwell? No, hang on.
I struggle to see. I struggle to get why someone would pick that combination rather than Hearn.
Yeah. Maybe Hearn didn't make a play for him.
Proven. And I don't know what people are being offered, because some of it's about, you know, guaranteed money. And maybe he got offered, you know, better guaranteed money. And, you know, now he's gone and won what he's won. If he'd been with Hearn, he would have been on more money, you know, but it wasn't guaranteed. So it depends what your risk, you know, appetite's like. But it should never have got. This is awful. This is absolutely awful.
Yeah,
it's got to it, and it'll end up getting picked up Channel 5 or Premier Sport, the death for nothing. Yeah,
I know. No, it's not. It's definitely not good. But yeah, it's a shame. I mean, let's hope it ends up somewhere. I mean, I'm definitely going to watch it. It's going to be a great fight, him and Ramirez, and I mean, he'll be the king of light welterweight. And it's not like it's a lower division either. It's light welterweight. Still a pretty big division.
But, well, it's the path of Crawford, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
And then he'll step up into 147, which is an awesome division, and he'll go in as a huge name, and there's some big fights, and you know, hopefully they'll end up being on TV. I mean, imagine if he won this. I don't know if it'd happen, but imagine he stepped into 147. It's like, all right, then fight Ben.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah.
You know, that'd be big. There's all kind of fights there. You know, Khan might even be up for fighting him, because Khan will not fight anyone if he thinks it damages his legacy. You got someone who's just done the Crawford route coming up. You know, Khan might actually fight him, because he might go, there's big money here, and if I get beat off him, I still keep my legacy, because that's all he's asked about now. He won't fight Ben, because if he gets beat off Ben, it looks bad for his name.
Yeah.
He's very clever, Khan. That's why he's just fought the elite and got beat, but then he just like, well, I got beat off the elite.
Yeah. What's going on with him? When is he fighting again? Is he fighting in October, November?
No idea. I'm beginning to almost write him off as a boxer now.
Yeah, I'm the same. All right, what other news have we got? The AJ trainer situation is something I picked up on because I think there's a lot of talk now whether Rob McCracken's going to be available because of the Olympics.
Yeah, surely they've known about it for a while, so I imagine they've got a plan in place. Yeah. It'd be really odd for McCracken not to be involved in this. Really, he's been with AJ for a long time. I know who's the guy who helped. I don't know if he helped in the last fight, but he helped.
Brought in Angel Fernandez for the Ruiz rematch.
Yeah, I'm sure I've seen some footage of him on the pads with Fernandez recently. So whether he's doing stuff, but it'd be very odd that. But again, I don't know how. Olympics will be very big for McCracken. You know what I mean? But then, will he ever be involved in a fight like this?
I know, but is McCracken actually involved in the Olympics? Is he in the corner, or does he kind of oversee all the trainers? I don't see how it'd even be a conversation. Like, he's got to be in AJ's corner, surely.
Well, he's head coach of boxing, so I think he oversees it all, and suppose you have to be there. But I don't know. It's odd. It's odd it's got to this, but like I said, they should have been able to see us coming a mile off.
Yeah, they'll have a plan in place, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Askren versus Jake Paul pay-per-view figures are reportedly 1.6 million pay-per-view buys. What do you make of that? Because in America, I mean, we haven't seen numbers like that since, well, Canelo was on pay-per-view or Mayweather was on payper-view.
What was really. How's that compared to other YouTube fight? His last fight and his brother's fights. How's it compared to any of those?
Well, didn't he fight on the undercard of Mike Tyson, Roy Jones Jr., Jake Paul? He fought that NBA player. I forget his name now.
But
apparently that did about 1.2, 1.3 million.
What did Logan versus the British YouTuber do?
KSI, I have no idea. I didn't even watch.
They're obviously big numbers, but it's not a surprise. It's not a surprise at all. But it's. I've got no issue with it. I just don't like it. And he's doing it for the right reasons. He's calling out all these professional boxers and saying, "I'm the best. I'm the best at my way. I'm the best in the world." And it's antagonising. But it's antagonising on purpose to get his name spoken about. And the annoying thing, I just don't think he'll do it. But he goes in against anyone that's relatively decent at boxing, he's going to get flattened. Yeah. And then it's over. And I just don't think he'll make it over. So I think he'll continue to fight these kind of weird fights where it's either a YouTuber or some kind of sports person or a mixed martial. He'll pick them carefully. And end up looking good, and it'll just cream it in, and maybe towards the end, after another 3 or 4, he might actually go off, fight someone dangerous, and then it'd be over. But you can't beat who he's beaten and say I'm world class, and it's just daft, and he knows it. He's just being clever and causing talk about him like we are now. So it works.
But it's a very strange kind of paradox, isn't it? Because I kind of put, these YouTube fights with, the celebrity and the former world champions from the 90s that are getting back in the ring. Because they're coming back in the ring. They're making a big comeback. Like, we've got Evander Holyfield against Brian McBride. We've got Miguel Cotto fighting Marquez. No, not yet. Not yet.
What's that on?
I think, isn't it on the undercard of what's the next Triller fight? Teofimo Lopez.
Yeah.
Miguel Cotto is fighting Juan Manuel Marquez. You got Anderson Silva, the UFC former world champion, is fighting Julio Cesar Chavez Jr.
Yeah.
There's quite a few. There'll be some that I'm missing, but here's my point. Like you've got, Mike Tyson making a comeback like 25 years after he's fought or in his prime, and he's doing 1.2 million pay-per-view buys against Roy Jones Jr. in a fight where I think Roy Jones probably carried him for a lot of that fight, and it was a little bit of a farce. Does 1.2 million pay-per-view buys, and then you've got Sergey Kovalev fights Andre Ward for the not undisputed, but it was the unified light heavyweight title, and that does apparently 150,000 pay-per-view buys, and I think maybe a little bit less for their rematch. It kind of puts the sport. It's like,
Yeah, I mean, some of the celebrities they had there, like Snoop Dogg and all that stuff. You know what I mean? It's all people are there to see to see a bit of a show, and the boxing's a little bit of the centerpiece. But it's all about the personalities are there and all the music and all that. And the only thingy for me as well is that if people are buying this, will less buy proper boxing as well? Will this damage normal boxing pay-per-views? Don't know.
I just think I'm of the opinion that it doesn't have any effect either way. I don't think people that tune in to watch Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. or Jake Paul versus Ben Askren, I don't think they watch that and think, oh, I want to get into boxing now. I just don't think it's as simple as that. I don't think it's as simple as convert into that's not going to be a boxing fan.
Again, Jake Paul said, "I'll fight Tommy Fury," who he won't, if your brother's on the undercard. Now, one, it's a bit of a arrogant to say your brother can be on the undercard. He's about to be one of the biggest boxing fights ever, and two, he knows it won't happen. So he can say it because that's not going to happen. So therefore, he'll say, "Well, that's why the fight's not happening."
Yeah.
So we spent too much time on this.
All right. No, it's just an interesting debate. I mean, because look at people don't have a go at footballers that come back and they go in these like classic leagues or classic, Liverpool versus Classic United, and they're like 10 years past their prime, and you get like a fraction of the people that would want to go and see that. But I guess it's the sport that we're in. What other news have we got? I think that's pretty much it. We've got Ruiz versus Areola is happening next week. Don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Hrgovic, Hunter bid, won by Hearn.
Great fight. Really looking forward to that. That's a real pick and fight, that is.
What was interesting is that when it's a purse bid, you get to see how much. Have you seen how much the purse bid was?
How much did? No, I didn't see that. How much did it go for?
What would it be?
2.5 mil.
Mate, 600 grand.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Weird number. I think 606. It's like 600 grand or 606 grand, something like that. Something weird. And I think Hunter gets 60% of it, and Hrgovic 40% of it. But
I mean, he's not going to see much of that, is he? After he's paid his trainer and promotion.
Who's that?
Hrgovic.
Well, they're all in a percentage, aren't they? So it'll be his trainer will be on 10%, and but he'll probably have lost 25% through other people. But this is it. It just it's they're not huge names, are they? So I mean, no. I wouldn't have. What did you put? 2.5 million? I don't think I'd have said that, but I thought it would have been in the million.
Yeah.
I was surprised when I saw that number. When you think I think the bid for Hughie Fury and Parker was 3 million.
Was it?
Or was it 5? Might have been 5 million. But that was a world title fight. Still,
But that didn't even get picked up by a broadcaster. That was on YouTube, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I think Hennessy lost a lot of money on it.
Did he?
Because I didn't sell it out, and it went onto YouTube, and I actually think that Tyson put up some of the money. And I think that's why Hennessy and Tyson have had issues, because, you know, because you've got to put the money up first, haven't you, in escrow, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was the thing. There's loads more news from my memory. So Joe Saunders moaning about judges.
Judges, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what really to make of that. I mean, they are neutral judges. They're American judges. It's not like a panel of Mexican judges. I don't really know what to make of that, to be honest.
He seems to say that he signed the contract on the premise that there'd be one British judge, but, you know, I don't think it was in the paperwork that they signed. So, you know, whether Hearn just said, "Oh, you know, we'll try and get you know." I don't know if it's games to almost get the judges on the back foot already. You know, football managers sometimes, he never gives us a penalty, like trying to get it in the head.
Yeah.
That'd work. I'd be definitely not giving them a penalty.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it is a little bit of that, a little bit of mind games. I think he's just got to focus on the fight. But I think if his condition and I mean, aesthetically, I don't think I've seen Billy Joe Saunders in this kind of condition before. Like, he looks muscular. Like, he looks in awesome shape.
If he can be in the shape that he was in against Lemieux, in terms of being able to be that elusive for 12 rounds, it could, you know, he's going to cause Canelo problems. You know, I still think Canelo.
Yeah.
But you know, I watched a few rounds of the Mayweather Canelo fight recently, and you know, obviously Canelo was younger and that, but he almost needs to fight like that. You know, be very elusive, make it obvious when he's missed. You know, and make him miss badly, and then try and get the counters in. It's just whether he's that sharp to get the counters in, and whether he can do it for 12 rounds. So we know that looking great is doesn't mean anything, but it often leans towards being in better shape. Yeah, he needs to be elusive, and he needs to be able to do it for 12 rounds. He needs to be sharp.
And Canelo looks good against southpaws. I think the last southpaw he fought was Erislandy Lara, which a lot of people actually think Lara won that. So I'm super pumped for that. I'm just really interested. It's not going to be kind of a massive dust up. It's going to be tactical and maybe unpretty at times, but I think he's going to cause him all sorts of problems. I'm not quite leaning towards a BJ.
There's going to be moaning about judges. I reckon Hearn's going to be in a whirlwind of shit, whatever happens, because they'll both be in his ear, whoever loses, because it will be, you know, Canelo could win on knockout. I don't think Billy Joe can win on knockout, but I think he's more likely to go to the cards, and I think it will be tight, and both fighters and both corners will see, you know, they always just see it in there for them. It'd be better sometimes if corners are a bit pessimistic, I think, and go, well, that was tight. Let's say we've not got that one right. You're three down now. You're gonna have to go for it more. There's so many fights I've seen where they've lost it, like the Yard fight. You know, they were assuming they were winning a lot of those fights, and they were those rounds, and they weren't. And if they said after round 9, you've got to step on the gas here, he might have knocked him out because he got him going in the last round.
Maybe.
You remember?
Yeah.
So yeah, I just think there's going to be some controversy, and Hearn's going to have like a headache with one of them in his ear. We've heard confirmation of a few things on the AJ Fury. We still haven't had the actual flight announcement, and I'm not sure if it'll happen next week now, because announcing before a big fight in the UK. But you've got confirmed it's Saudi, confirmed it's one of 3 dates. I think the 24th of July, 31st of July, or the 7th of August. And I thought August might come into play because they started throwing that month in a little bit now. And they started saying it's not going to be late, you know, not like September or October. So I remember thinking August is coming into play now. Yeah. And we know that it's going to be Sky and BT in the UK, and it's going to be Dazn worldwide, and it's going to be ESPN,
yeah,
pay-per-view in the States, which I suppose the only surprise a little bit is the Dazn element, but then the worldwide thing, maybe Dazn have got the agreement that they get the second fight.
You mean in the UK?
No, well, there's that, but maybe they get the second fight in America as well.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think Hearn always made a big point of that, didn't he? That AJ is not exclusive to any broadcaster, apart from he is obviously the Sky, but yeah, maybe he wants to just make sure that it's not going to hamper any potential unification, undisputed fight. Yeah, if you're exclusive to one broadcaster, it just creates all sorts of problems, doesn't it?
It did with Lewis and Tyson, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
All so right. That's we have there. Any others? I'm sure there's more news, and I sort of wrote loads down.
I don't know if there is actually. I think that is pretty much it. The other thing that I picked up on today actually was Manny Pacquiao versus Terence Crawford has been canned. The money didn't come through from the UAE in the end. And an interesting development. I think Errol Spence is now in play to fight Manny Pacquiao, which would be a real slap in the face for Terence Crawford. I mean, that whole welterweight division is just so frustrating at the moment, with them not fighting each other.
Have we talked about the 15th of May card that's been announced? Is it 15th of May?
No.
Buatsi? We speak about that last week?
No. Has he got an opponent yet?
No, but it's a double headline with there's a ladies fight on.
Okay.
I can't remember who the ladies are.
Okay, great insight.
Yeah. But that's something else popped his event now when he's Wilder's back training apparently.
Yeah, I'm just not interested, to be honest, until I hear an opponent date. Just not interested in Wilder at the moment.
Yeah. Have you seen any of the shows they're doing to build up that PBC are doing to build up Areola and Ruiz?
Well, they're doing like a 24/7 thing.
A little bit.
Oh, yeah. Oh God. To be fair, Areola looks like he's shedded a lot of weight. He looks in better condition now than he's never looked in his career.
He does, but he doesn't look he's got much going in him. I mean, whenever they show any training, he ain't doing much. I know they don't want to give much away, but then the trainer he's got, I've never heard of him, and he's just like watching him on the pads going, yeah, that's good. And like, this is a really poor set. It looks a poor setup, but what do I know? I've never worked in a gym before, but it looks really like novice-y. But we'll see.
Yeah, not one that I'll be staying up to watch. Ruiz Areola, I'll check it out on the news.
Yeah, I think I'll do the same.
All right.
If it was I'd be up for it. But
shall we wrap it up?
Yep.
We covered everything. All right. Tune in next week for the review of our prediction and more news. Thanks everybody for listening.